All right, guys. So we were all working together in 2014 at Grantland when this movie came out. It was football season. It was October. The NBA was starting as well. I was just coming off of a 3-week suspension. We were working on the Grantland Basketball Hour. I can't say Keanu Reeves was on the radar. He was in a little bit of a career slump, but this beautiful movie came out, and somebody that we used to work with who ran the culture for us, Mark Lasanti, was like, this movie's amazing. You got to see it in the theater. And I was like, all right, I'll get to it. And it really just kind of pushed it aside. Didn't see it until it made whatever its cable run. And then 10 years later, it's just part of our lives. CR, when did you see it? Did you see it in the theater?
I saw it in the theater, and I saw it in the theater with like no expectations. I was like, this seems like it's going to be a cool action movie to watch. Like at that point, Keanu Reeves was like kind of cranking them out. Right? Like he had a couple of martial arts movies that year or like in the last couple of years around then. And I was like, this is the story with Keanu Reeves, is that every time you think he's out, he pulls you back in. Is that like every time there's like a couple year lull and you're like, oh, I guess Keanu Reeves is just chilling. He's just coasting. What a great life. There he is eating a sandwich on the sidewalk in LA. And then he just bangs one of these out, whether it's Point Break, whether it's Matrix, whether it's this. It's like, he's just like got this sixth sense where he can come back after like 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years with a new character and a new way of making movies. That's just so incredible.
Shea, did you see it in the theater?
I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it at home. I saw it because Chris Ryan told me to see it, matter of fact. He messaged me. I tried to find it in Google, like when Google had Google Chat.
Oh, G-Chat,
Yeah, G-Chat. He was like just out of nowhere, bing. Hey, have you seen John Wick? You got to check this shit out. It's incredible. And so I put it on my list. I was teaching at the time still. I was working part-time at Grantland, and so still teaching. And I got to it when I got to it at the house when it was on available for rent. And it just, it was incredible. It was so good. I'm so excited to talk about it.
Yeah, it's weird when you have the sleeper cult movies that are also like amazing when you're watching them. And even in the moment, the first time you're watching and you're going, I don't understand. Why isn't this movie a bigger deal? Why aren't more people talking about this? You turn it, it's almost like you're drinking the Kool-Aid. The movie's not even over yet. The first time I saw this, and I think my dad was on it. My dad might have even seen the theater because he's a Keanu
your dad's
guy.
on the forums, man.
Guy.
Your dad's on the. He's on the board.
I think he was the one that told me about it. Him and Lasanti, but it kept going and kept going. It was everything I wanted, and it hits at a really weird time for action movies. I had done for Grayland that year. I'd done the action movie championship belt, and I think the last couple of years had gone to Liam Neeson. But we were moving into this nostalgia action thing with like the Expendables and it was almost like we were kind of repeating movies we made with stars we made. And it just felt like we were in between eras. And part of that piece was like, I don't know where this is going. Here are some possible candidates. Keanu Reeves was not a candidate. But then you think about from Point Break's 1991, this movie comes out in 2014. Then he starts making Wick for the next 10 years. This is like a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar type action movie career. This is 3 full decades of the same person making different kind of action movies, right?
Yeah, this series, when he shows up with John Wick, this cements him as the greatest modern action movie star that we've had. There's the Stallone, Schwarzenegger era. That's a whole different thing. But from then to now, from the 90s to now, it's a whole new batch of guys. And this movie here makes him untouchable because he has, as you mentioned, Point Break. He has The Matrix. He has Speed. He has the John Wick series. He's the guy. He's the king of the mountain right now. It's unbelievable.
I think he revolutionized.
Schwarzenegger, Chris, would you have Schwarzenegger's peak is probably higher, but the Keanu career, it almost turns into a LeBron versus MJ argument where LeBron had a better career, but MJ's peak was higher. I think with Keanu, it's the same thing. Like it just, when you talk about 3 straight decades, that's nuts.
I think that you can make the argument that like as commercial appeal goes and box office, like Schwarzenegger's hold on like American movies was bigger, but I think Keanu revolutionized action movies twice, at least in America. Mm-hmm. And partially by like interpreting a lot of Asian genre like filmmaking styles and bringing them over to the States and popularizing them. But like to do Matrix, it would be enough. Like that would be the crowning achievement of any action star. And then to do it again with Wick, And both times, I feel like he brought those movies out. Those movies came at a point where action movie fans were really craving something new. And that's the thing is you're talking about Taken. It felt like action movies might have been getting kind of relegated to dumpuary where they're all vigilante movies, which is totally cool. I watch those movies all the time. But I have this memory of when Wick came out, and Wick in itself is a vigilante movie, of wanting something new, of wanting like the action movies to take a step. And he kind of seems to intuit when that time is and how to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, there were pieces of this and cult movies and overseas movies that, you know, like The Raid 2, but we hadn't seen it really in a mainstream way. So when I wrote the action movie belt piece, which was in the spring of 2014, and I had the 4 rules of what makes an action star. Rule number 1 was, over everything else, I need to believe our hero can kick everyone's ass in any conceivable situation at any given time, and he needs to believe this too. And then the analogy I used was, imagine the scariest dude on the planet beating up an entire bar, and then he eventually comes after our beloved hero. If I am not 100% convinced that my dude is winning that fight, then he can't capture the belt. But this is the key piece. This rule disqualifies A-listers like Harrison Ford, Tom Cruise, Paul Newman, Keanu Reeves. I put him in the paragraph. And then I listed a whole bunch of other people. And I think that's what was missing from the Keanu action thing, even though he was always like kind of the everyman in these action things, right? Or Matrix is like, we're in an alternate universe. But this movie, it becomes believable. He can go into a nightclub and kill 25 people in 7 minutes. Mm-hmm. Shea, did you feel like before this movie, did you feel like he had that in him?
I felt like he had a good amount of fight confidence in him. Right, he's a believable fighter. But prior to this, he had not done this version of fighting. He has like a fist fight or two in Point Break or whatever. Speed, he's throwing himself around. It's a different form of physicality of action in those movies. In The Matrix, he's fighting, but he's also like Kung Fu Jesus or whatever. Like there's some mysticism to it. But in this one, this is like very real world. There's no tricks. There's no anything. He's just doing all the stuff. And yeah, when you see him do it the first time, when you see him in that first big 12-on-1 inside his house where he's just pissed off killing everybody, your hands are on your head and you're like, how is Keanu Reeves doing this? What is going, like, you weren't certain it was in there, and then he does it and you're like, oh my God, why did you not do this for the last 25 years?
Well, the cool thing about Shea, you mentioned that first fight scene in Keanu's house, in Wick's house. The introduction to John Wick is he gets his ass kicked. So there is like this really cool grounding of the character where it's like, yo, he can get jumped and like he's out of shape and maybe he wasn't expecting this and all this stuff, and like that completely it changes like a calibration of the character, because in The Matrix it's like he basically taps into something and then for the rest of the movie he's on wires, he's got unlimited bullets, he can take he can duck bullets. It's like it's a superhero for lack of a better term. But Wick is like, everything Wick does is governed by the laws of the movie. It's like he only has so many bullets. They're shooting these master shots rather than all these close-ups. So you're actually seeing Keanu punch and get punched. And it just makes it all feel so real.
I thought I had John Wick 2 ahead of John Wick 1.
I don't.
But I actually think this is the rare case where I go 1, 2, 3, 4 for the Wick franchise. Like for movies I like, which usually, like Rocky, I'm like 3, 4, 1, 2, like 7. Mm-hmm. In this one, the more you watch one, you're just like, this is the best one. It's 101 minutes, so it passes the Craig Horlbeck test of, can you just tell me this movie in less than 100 minutes around then? The piece that I forgot, because this movie's, the 10-year anniversary is in October, so it's coming up. I forgot how dead Keanu's career was. Like, it's dead. And when you do the research of it, he's like, yeah, I was in a slump. And other people are like, yeah, Keanu was in a slump, so it was easier to get him. This was beyond a slump. The movies he made before this movie, The Private Lives of Pippa Lee, Easy to Assemble, Henry's Chime, Generation Man of Tai Chi, and 47 Ronin, which bombed. And then Extreme Pursuit, which I don't even remember what that was. And then it leads to John Wick. So this is beyond a slump. his career's over. And it felt like even if his career was over, it's like, I'm good with that. Keanu had a great run. What a great 20 plus years. Like, congrats to him. And then he comes back with another unbelievable run that I think cements it.
The thing is that like, you're right. He's like a hair's breadth away from probably doing
Travolta Land. He's about to be like in Gotti, directed by Kevin Connolly.
Or he's about to just be cranking out 3 action movies a year where he shows up for 4 days on the set and he gets paid and then he goes home. But it's like, I think Keanu was always going to have the part of his career that where he's like this iconic burnout kind of hipster surfer guy. And he could have always maybe gone back to that and done comedies or done Bill and Ted type movies or whatever. But like, yeah, as far as an action star, it seemed like he might have been cooked.
Yeah. Shea, once upon a time, you wrote a lot about action people. And and John Wick and Keanu Reeves were involved in that book. What's your big picture Keanu as you put him against all of the other people from the last 50 years? What's different about him?
What's different about him is he feels a little bit real, a little bit more real than when you're watching Schwarzenegger in Commando jump out of an airplane from 200 feet and land on the ground and then run away, right? I thought Chris brought up a great point of in this series in particular, he's governed by like the rules of the movie. There's a part in this one when he's in the nightclub and he's going crazy and he's like, killing everybody. And then he runs out of bullets. And he just is like, shit. And now it's a fist fight. Like that sort of stuff that he's doing here. We saw it for the very first time when Bruce Willis did it in Die Hard. The like iconic scene in that is when he has to run across the glass covered floor with no shoes on, and then we see him pulling the glass out of his feet, and he's in pain. In all of the movies before then, if Stallone does that, if Schwarzenegger does that, they're pulling the glass out with no reaction at all. Like, this doesn't bother me one single bit. Bruce Willis does it, and he's like, oh my God, this hurts so bad, and you're feeling the same sort of way. That's what Keanu has here. He's just a newer version of that. It just feels like a real thing, and it becomes so much fun to watch.
You know, I was thinking about it, watching the movie last night, and thinking about some of the other roles he's had. And it's almost like there's like 3 different versions of Keanu, right? There's like Point Break Keanu, I really enjoy. There's some unintentional comedy mixed into it, which I think is a quality that Arnold and Stallone and Van Damme and Seagal, where you're like, I really like this guy, but also it's kind of funny when he does this, and you're kind of just peanut gallerying it as it going. So he has that. He also had that Matrix side where it's like there's something mystical and different about him that you can't really put your eye on. So it would make,
otherworldly, yeah.
Like it wouldn't make sense for Sly Stallone to be the lead in the Matrix, right? There's only certain characters who could have been that, so he could do that. But then he also had that McQueen side that I think he really taps into. And a lot of the research about John Wick was like, it was way more overwritten than it ended up being, where you would take like these scenes with dialogue and they would just strip them back and do the Steve McQueen. Let's just have Keanu do nothing or say one word. And a lot of the stuff he's doing just with his face and physically is just really hard to do. We talked about it in an earlier podcast when Tarantino was writing about McQueen and how sometimes less is more. And I don't know if Keanu fully tapped into that in a movie until John Wick, with that kind of less is more. Let me just carry this by, I'm a handsome guy who's been famous for a long time. I'm not imposing, but you believe in me, and I'm gonna carry something here. It's a really hard thing to pull off. And I don't know, are there any under 40 actors that we have now that can do it? Like even with Rebel Ridge, I felt like Aaron Pierre kind of had that quality a little bit, right? Where there was something, he didn't have to say a lot, but you were really interested in what he was doing. And I for whatever reason, Keanu figured it out for John Wick.
It's the perfect story for that kind of performance too, though, because you just need to know that this is a guy who's had everything taken away from him, and he's going to take everything away from the people who did that. I mean, to Shea's point about John McClane pulling the glass out of his feet and limping for the rest of the movie, Keanu Reeves' John Wick doesn't talk because his dog got killed. He's done talking. Like, it wouldn't make sense if he was a chatty Cathy the entire movie about like, oh, hey, have you guys seen Vigo? So you guys have done some great work in the bathhouse, blah, blah, blah. Like, you don't want him
in the car shop.
He shouldn't have one-liners. He should be stoic. He should be the samurai, and it works perfectly.
A little bit of the secret sauce on here too is that he's funny in it. And he knows he's being funny when he just will like, we're going to have this incredible action sequence and then I'm going to have a normal conversation with somebody, like nothing. And then back to like, they do that throughout the series. I think the funniest one, they pay off the dead dog in part 3 when Halle Berry's dog gets shot and she goes crazy and kills everybody. And she's like, I'm sorry. And he just goes, I get it. And that's
Right,
it. And watching that in the theater, everybody erupts. Oh my God, this is incredible. Like he's a funny guy, but he's not doing the funny thing.
So Bill, you like the Wick movies in order they were released. Like that's your power ranking.
I liked when I liked 1, 2 started pushing it. I thought 3 was a little over the top. And I get it. You're making sequels. We watched it with Shea and I, our beloved Fast and Furious franchise. You just keep upping the stakes and then eventually there's nowhere to go and you become insane. I like this version of John Wick is my favorite. And I think when you read about how they made it, how they were so strapped with the budget, how they were basically scrapping left and right just to get shots. They're reusing stunt people. You know, they use the people in the beginning and it's hard for them to see and they're just reusing them for fight scenes.
One guy gets killed 4 times in the nightclub.
Right. They had basically 10 stunt guys they just used over and over again. But what it led to inadvertently was, I think, one of the biggest reasons this movie works so well is the wide shots.
Yeah.
They didn't have like enough cameras to shoot stuff with like.
They had no coverage.
And I think as the Wick series went along, I felt like they lost that and it just became more and more almost Matrixy. What I love about this is CR always talks about like the best action movies, you know where you are at all times. Like when he's in that nightclub and it's wide and he's doing all these different things.
Yeah.
Shea, has there been another scene like that? Can you think of another action movie scene that's as well executed and as complicated as that?
I mean, you could pick anything from The Raid. They do the same trick there. You have you can grab a Tony Jaa movie, the stairwell scene, when like that sort of thing. Yeah, but this is all, as Chris pointed out, them paying homage to Asian cinema, them trying to do their version of it here, which we then see them like literally. They bring in the guys from The Raid and they let those guys beat up John Wick. Like they just kicked the shit out of him. And that's them saying, you guys did it first and you guys did it best. We want to honor that. You know what I mean? I think with regard to the order that they are for me, I have number 3 as my favorite one.
Interesting. How come?
It was just so much fun to watch him. By part 3, it just starts with him on the run immediately, straight into this gigantic knife fight scene where they're just grabbing knives off the wall and throwing them at each other, and you have a horse fight that's in there. You have all of this crazy stuff happening. You have the introduction of the new coins and the adjudicator, and they're just building the world bigger and bigger. But what did happen for me is when I rewatched this one recently. Originally, I had it 3, 2, 1, 4, and then now. I guess because enough time has passed, when I rewatch this one, I'm like, man, this is better. This is definitely better than 2. I'm starting to feel, as you mentioned with the Fast and the Furious thing, the bigger the movies get, the more I kind of want to go back to the original version where it's smaller and a little more intimate. And they do such a great job of like parceling out so little information in the first one, just enough to get you to follow them down the alley or whatever. But yeah, I started to feel that too.
You know, that's one of the great things that we take the Continental for granted. It's become this whole universe that they built out over the 4 years.
Oh, man.
There's some stuff they do in this movie that's just so smart. It's just hard for me to believe it was a script written by somebody who had never really had a break writing scripts, right? It's the directors, and it's 2 directors, and only one got credit, are basically the Matrix stunt coordinators. But there's all this smart stuff, how they execute it, where, you know, we know from everybody's reaction, it's like, oh shit, you're working again? It happens like 5, 6 times during the movie. Like the policeman comes over and he just sees the body. He's like, got a problem here, John? No, I don't. No, we're good. And it's just, you're just like, oh shit, like this guy really must be a badass. Even when the son calls the dad and he's like, yeah, I killed, it was John Wick's car. And the guy's like, oh. And they set up this sense of, what is this? Who is this guy? And then they execute it. CR, I think this is probably the best original action movie of this century, would be my take. I can't think of another one that, and you got to separate the sequels. You're just talking about a movie that stands alone. For me, most satisfying are this, Fast and Furious 1, Taken,
The Equalizer.
Man on Fire.
If you're talking,
Equalizer's probably up there too. Just like just this small group of just, wow, this is everything I want when I want an action movie.
Yeah, Shea, what year's The Raid?
Shoot, I don't even know it offhand.
Is it like 10?
It was in the 2000s.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
I mean, The Raid and this are the two action movies that I probably go back to the most. And I think both have that same quality that you're talking about. Raid 2 becomes basically this Godfather-esque epic as well as an action movie. Is just like the John Wick movies just kind of get increasingly inflated to the point where so it's interesting to hear you guys rank them, because I go 1, 4, 2, 3 in my ranking, I think, at this point, because I think 4 is like, what if John Wick was an opera, like what if John Wick was almost like this incredible fantasy, but yeah, both Raid and Wick kind of feel like they're coming out of nowhere and they're being beamed from like an alternate world where you're just like, I didn't know people could do that. I didn't know dudes could fight that way. I didn't know you could do gun fu that way. I didn't know that Keanu Reeves could take punches like that, or fall off of a balcony and you can hear his hip crack when he lands. I didn't know you could do that in action movies. So I agree. I'd probably put Wick up there. If it's not 1, it's 2.
Yeah, that feels right. It's between Wick and The Raid. That's the argument.
Yeah, if you're gonna ding Fast and Furious, it's basically Point Break with cars, right? I wouldn't say it's like the single most original movie ever made. If you're gonna ding Taken, and Taken's amazing. Shea and I did that. I think that was in the first year we did Taken.
Loved it.
That movie has some dopey parts, right? And it just all of a sudden, it's not perfect, but I love it, and I love how simple it is. And I think that's what action movies, when they're really at their best, and this movie is a good example, right? John Wick lost his wife, loves his car, loves this new puppy that he got. It's really all he's got. He just wants to retire and have a car and a dog. And this is a little like what same thing with Rebel Ridge, where it's like a why didn't they leave him alone movie.
Yeah.
He just leave him alone. He just wants to get gas. He just wants to house train this puppy, maybe teach him how to catch a tennis ball, and then they had to fuck with him, and now all bets are off. And that's always the best possible premise for an action movie. All right, so other reasons John Wick jumped out. We mentioned the Continental. I think what's so cool about John Wick 1 is there's just these little subtle things that just feel like you want the backstory and everything. You're like, what the fuck are these gold coins?
Yeah.
What is I need to make a dinner reservation for 12? What's going on with the dude from The Wire behind the counter? Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Why do they have this? Why can't I kill anybody in the hotel? And they're just, all of these rules come out. And you're like, how the fuck did they think of all this? And I think they realized that because Wick 2, they blow it out. But Shea, when you saw this movie, had you ever seen anything like that before, where there's just like these hints of this alternate universe, basically?
No, not done this well. I think the most impressive part of it is they give you enough that you understand. They don't over-explain anything. They give you enough that you understand, but not enough that you know everything. Like the coins are a perfect example. Or the dinner reservation for 12. As soon as he says, I need a dinner reservation for 12, you know he's telling that guy, I just killed 12 people and I need you to come clean them up. And then they come and he gives them just 1 coin per person, and that's it. And you automatically know, okay, whatever he's involved in, this is the currency that they use and this is how they talk to each other. And then he goes to the hotel and he asks Lance Reddick, the concierge,
our guy,
is it the same owners? And you know right there he's asking them, the rules are still in place, right? Like I'm still good to kill, like I'm safe here. Like you're watching the movie and you don't know anything, but they say 1 or 2 lines and you know enough to follow along. And yeah,
what about the bouncer when he's like, hey, did you lose some weight?
Yeah, right.
Kevin Nash, and the guy's like, "Yeah, I lost about 20," and it's like he's clearly
60
telling him there's
60
20
pounds,
bad
yeah.
guys or 60, whatever he says. There's all these bad. They're talking in some code that I don't even really understand. How do you even learn this code? That's one of the, I guess, the great action movie.
I have a lot of questions
Just what
about
ifs.
how we're communicating the rules and regulations and just like what people need to know. But yeah, like I was trying to think of other movies that do this. There's a little bit of it in Bourne, where as Matt Damon's character keeps like learning a little bit more about himself, you then learn more about like the programs that he's with. And it's got kind of the similar sort of like people can get activated by their cell phone where they're like, oh, now I have to leave my class that I'm teaching to go assassinate Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
There's some other stuff. I'm sure I'm forgetting some, like, but that whole, it's like basically if you made a movie with like Christopher Walken's character in Man on Fire had like a huge role where it's like the guy who is the handler, the facilitator, the guy who can get him weapons. It used to work with him. I love that part about Wick with the Continental.
I think the difference in this and those ones, part of the reason this one is so appealing is because those ones are always relegated or regulated by the government of some
it's
sort.
like, it's just like an off-book CIA program.
Yeah, some dark agency or whatever. And this one is it's the underworld. So everything is in play. It's the underworld. We could do whatever we want. And they just build it up so nice around them.
You get bounties. I love a good bounty.
Love a bounty.
Wick spawns 3 sequels. It spawns a prequel TV series. It spawns a spin-off film, Ballerina, video games, comic books. It also dives into this universe of people I liked from this specific time. Like we have people from The Wire. We have people from Oz. We have the lead from Deadwood. We have Tyra from Friday Night Lights. They're just like, hey, what shows did you like? Here's another person, Kevin Nash. They're just kind of smartly building it out. The cast is really good. Leguizamo.
Alfie was on Game of Thrones around this time.
Supposedly he did a one day 15-hour shoot and just filmed all of his car scenes. Willem Dafoe. Out of nowhere, just with like a huge part, and Bridget Moynihan, and our guy Dean Winters as Vigo's attorney. So anyway, so the screenwriter was Derek Kolstad, and he had an idea basically inspired by a couple of terrible revenge movies he watched. But originally the character was supposed to be old, and he was thinking it was like a Clint Eastwood, Paul Newman type of role. And then once Keanu became involved, that changed. But he took stuff he liked from a whole bunch of stuff, including The Killer by John Woo and spaghetti westerns and all kinds of things. But
the only time that ever seems to pop up is when Vigo's kids and that generation of guys don't seem to know who John Wick is. Because I think in the original screenplay, it was going to be like people had kind of forgotten about him and maybe thought it was like a fairy tale or something. And that's because he was going to be 75 when he like shows up or whatever. But like, that's the only one. And it almost like strains credulity where you're like, how do you guys not know about John Wick?
I had that in nitpicks. Yeah. I think he was conceived as like the old man with Jeff Bridges. It was that kind of thing. So so they barely had enough money. They finished the movie, cutting costs left and right. And in August 2014, which is 3 months before the movie came out, still had no distributor. Then Lionsgate got involved, offered him, all right, well, no upfront payment, not that many release, and then all of a sudden they were at Austin Film Festival and Fanatics Fest, Fantastic Fest, and buzz built, and they got to like 42 screens, and it kept going, and ended up making money. $25 million budget, made $85 million. Sadly. No Roger Ebert review because he had passed away at this point. What do you think? What do you think Roger Ebert would have thought? I was afraid to put AI in on this one.
I think he would have liked it, but found it mind numbing and a little thin.
Okay.
I think Roger's a character guy. He'd love to maybe know a little bit more about Helen. What was she?
Should I have done ChatGPT for this? I'm going to stay away from it. All right, today's most rewatchable scene is brought to you by Paramount Plus. A mountain of movies awaits on Paramount Plus. Shea, I don't know if you've heard of Top Gun Maverick, Mission Impossible Fallout, or Gladiator. Have you heard of those three?
I think so.
Well,
I think
they're on Paramount Plus. Yeah. Some good ones, including Scream 6, Smile, A Quiet Place Day 1. They have movies for the kiddos like Paw Patrol, the movie, and Dora and the Lost City of Gold. Discover something new every week on Paramount Plus. Most rewatchable scene. This was, I had too many. I think we know who's going to win, but I wanted to shout out a few. The gas station interaction with Theon Lovejoy, Vigo's son.
Love it. Love it.
It goes from there, and we're like, oh no, this isn't good. He just wants to get some gas. Come on, guys, stop buying his car. Then he does this crazy driving thing. I don't know if the puppy's still in the car or not at that point, but he's doing like just these awesome driving tricks. And then
John Wick, a premium guy, like high grade Techron. Like, you think he's got to put good juice in that thing or what?
It'd be funny if he just got like the middle gas.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to get a little better than the worst one, but not.
You guys know premium's just a myth, right? It's all middle.
And then we get the break in. But I think just the important thing I wanted to point out is 16 minutes, the entire movie's been set up and we know everything, which I think is really hard to do. They're just like, boom, we got credits. We know who all of our bad people are. And now with John Wick has a purpose and we're ready to go. Also, this isn't for most rewatchable, but I heard you struck my son. Yes, sir, I did. May I ask why? Yeah, he stole John Wick's car and killed his dog. Oh.
That's all you need. That's all you need.
All right, first real rewatchable. Vigo yelling at his son and explaining John Wick.
Wonderful.
The Baba Yaga.
They call him Baba Yaga. He wasn't the boogeyman. He was the one you sent to kill the boogeyman. As he's telling this, John Wick is like, I'm going to get a giant jackhammer and I'm just going to wail away at my basement floor. And it's like, what's he doing? Shea, your thoughts on this scene?
Oh, it's incredible. It might be the best character introduction in an action movie that we've gotten, because you have this one guy who's very clearly an intimidating Russian gangster who's terrified. He knows his son is dead. He's talking to a dead man. While this dad is telling the son, you're going to die, we're cutting away, as you mentioned, to John Wick in his basement with a sledgehammer, just crashing into the ground over and over and over, clearing out the rubble, opening the box just full of guns and gold coins. And you're like, oh, fuck. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's not going to be good for Theon Lovejoy. That's what I know.
Also, just the idea of the guy you send to kill the boogeyman is one of the most oh shit moments in action movie history.
Yeah. It's a little tiny example of how they, in this series, they always go one step past where you think they're going to go. Because it's so many other movies would have been like, yeah, he's the real life version of the boogeyman. And they were like, no, he's not that. He's who kills the real life version of the boogeyman. Oh, one level past where you think.
Well, he also saw him kill 3 men in a bar with a pencil. He gave him an impossible task if he wanted to get away from his life, which John Wick then apparently pulled off. We don't even really know what the task was, but he must have just killed 100 people.
Yeah.
And then he calls John and John hangs up, but not before he tells his son, John will come for you. You will do nothing. Because you can do nothing.
Because
CR, do you have in your basement, do you have like under the cement just guns and Grantland quarterlies for to sell?
If we're doing this, I was going to ask you if in your basement, do you have a Dell laptop buried under concrete for when you start writing columns again?
They've enraged me. It's time to write a basketball column.
They said his fingers don't work anymore.
They called him Baba Yaga. All right, next one, attack at Wick's house. I think John kills 14 guys. I might have the wrong count. It was around 14.
No, it's a dozen. It's 12 because he says
oh, that's
dinner
right,
for
it's 12.
the reservation for 12.
Yeah, reservation for 12. I'm
just a quick shout out to when he hammers the knife into the guy. That's really like we are in for something new, fresh, and exciting in the world of killing guys.
Because all of the kills prior to that moment are fast. Boom, boom, boom. It shoots you in the leg, shoots you in the chest, shoots you in the head, shoots you in the head, whatever. And then that last one, it takes 45 seconds for him to kill him. Yeah, that's great. It's so good.
Shea, do you feel like John Wick innovated some new killing techniques? Because a couple things I noticed, really good at the eye contact with the person as he's finishing them off. We always watch these movies and we go, why didn't they just shoot him one more time in the head to make sure he's dead? John Wick's like, don't worry, I've got this. He always has the extra headshot. And then the other thing is he's good at the tactical where like that later in the nightclub when he shoots the guy in the foot to get the guy to fall over so then he can shoot him in the head. Like he's thinking a step ahead. It's a little, like Tom Brady, like being like, I'm going to pull this corner down because I want to send the tight end into that spot. John Wick I can't think of another action hero who is like 2 steps ahead of the villains.
He sees more of the field than everybody else. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And then the fact that he is using so much of his own like body weight and counterweight in the fights is such a smart decision. Because as you mentioned before, he's not a big dude. We even see him with his shirt off and he's not covered in muscles or whatever. It's just a normal looking dude. But he starts whipping these guys around or putting them in these rear naked chokes or arm bars and doing all this jujitsu. And it's like, man, this is just so many good decisions in a row.
CR, as a black belt in judo, did you feel like the judo was realistic?
I just appreciated that he never fought dirty. There's not a lot of nut shots. He never goes to tear someone's eye out. He only bites one thumb. It's like, this is a guy, he played the game the right way. He did.
It is true. He is above the board. Was there a nut shot? I don't think there was.
There might be one on Victor by the sink, but I couldn't tell if it was a nut shot or an ACL tear. Like he goes right for the kneecap, but it was like, I was really impressed rewatching this where I'm like, man, there's a couple of chances here. John Wick has the pull the eyeball out move in his back pocket.
Right, he didn't want to waste it,
and he never does it. He's just like, you know what, we're gonna keep this one 100, and we're gonna all feel good about how we fought at the end of the day.
Shea, where do you stand on the broken appendage going sideways? Like, are you an arm guy or a leg guy when you see that?
Oh man, I think I prefer to see an arm, but the leg is just
it's like flapping.
The leg is just a little too violent for me. Like I remember watching Harley Quinn when she broke that guy's leg, and I was like, "Oh my god, that had hurt so bad." Like I like a leg. I mean, I like an arm.
Okay. Waste disposal dinner for 12. I don't know if you know this, but this was Winston Wolf's startup company that he started in the late 90s.
It was his franchise.
Yeah, it was a franchise. He wanted to branch out. He had made some money. He wanted to invest in something, get something for himself. Next scene, Wick's revenge, the nightclub fight, starting with the aforementioned bathroom when he breaks the guy's leg and kills him, but just so many murders.
I think
I don't even know where to start with this.
So from the second he puts the gun to Francis's head outside of the nightclub, it's 7 minutes until he gets thrown off the balcony. 7 minutes. And it might be the 7 best sustained minutes in action movie history.
It's up there. I agree.
And
even the end where the stuntman just gets thrown. It's clearly not Keanu. He turns his head. The guy just drops 20 feet. It's like a classic. I don't know how the fuck they just did that. That's not CGI. That guy just dropped onto a concrete floor. And
Keanu wanted to do it and they wouldn't insure him for it.
Right. Keanu's like, just let me do it. Supposedly in the nightclub thing, Keanu had 104-degree fever and they were like going to delay it a day. So he felt better. He's like, no, I just want to do it.
Flu game.
Flu game.
Yeah, it was his flu game.
So we have in that sequence, Bill, just to give you the sort of breakdown. There's Francis the doorman. There's killing Victor at the sink. There's the shootout in the baths where he shoots the half-naked guy in the chest and head.
Yeah, I love that part.
Then there's like the dining area, the kind of like the one with the overhead fluorescent lights kind of, and everybody's running around with the red shirts and the black jackets. Dance floor, and then there's the balcony. And it culminates with him getting thrown off the balcony.
Dance floor is when it goes to another level.
Unbelievable.
Because you're already like, this is awesome. And then it's like, oh my God, there's a 2,000 person nightclub with pounding music. And he's just going to fucking kill this guy who can go through with a gun. And then the balcony, it's really one of the greats. You agree with that, Shea, that this is up there, the best 7 minutes ever?
It's absolutely in the conversation. Watching him go into the Viper pit and it's just him surrounded. How are you going to get out of this alive? And he just mows through them. It's very much reminds me of in the Kingsman, the church killing scene there. But this is, you're killing other guys who are killers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so good.
I really like the end of Fast Five with the car chase when they're dragging the safe behind them. I think is really great. It's a different kind of action scene, but I think that's a really good, I think that's the best 7 minutes of the Fast series. I still don't understand how they did
there's
that.
There's probably a 7 minute stretch of Fury Road that could match up to this. So I guess I can distinguish this by saying best 7 minutes in an action movie that I've ever seen non-car division.
Yeah. Or what about the hospital scene in Hard Boiled when they go to the hospital?
How long is that though?
That's like 30 minutes. Fuck. Like 30 minutes straight. John Woo, the master.
Yeah, we should pay tribute to him because like a lot of this movie is pulled from Better Tomorrow and
so
Hard Boiled.
much. Yeah. So much.
I would put the three of us probably in the highest end of people who just absolutely love action movies. And to me, like the whole reason to watch these is when you have something like the nightclub scene and it's going, you're like, oh my God. And you're just like, I can't imagine having seen this in the theater. I honestly think I would have passed out.
We should have done like the 7 minute nightclub scene, but do it as Manning cast. And like, Shea's like, they're in quarters. They're in quarters.
Well, so the nightclub scene ends and we're like, whew, let's take a breath. And two more people are trying to kill him. There's Willem Dafoe across the thing trying to shoot him through the window. And then Miss Perkins comes in like just a crazy maniac trying to take him down. That scene I have as a rewatchable. The church robbery fire. The Wick gets captured. I'm thinking I'm back.
Yeah.
And then the final scene where Wick kills everybody. And then Wick finds a dog at the end, I think would be all the rewatchables. Unless you guys have anything else to add, we can pick our most rewatchable scene, which I think is the nightclub, right?
I think it's important to point out when Willem Dafoe shoots at him in the hotel, he's helping him there.
Yeah, he's giving him a heads
warning
up.
him, hey, Perkins is in the room. Good luck. You know what I mean? Like he's always watching out for him. What a great friend he was. Just always there. If we're
you don't think there was 1% where he was like, 4 million's a lot. I don't know.
No, I don't think so. Because we see him make a similar shot later on through a closed window, hit a guy directly in the head to save John Wick. And it's like, he wouldn't miss through a clear window. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's fair. I just wonder if he struggled with the decision at all. But then you see his house and it was like, pretty nice house. I don't know. Felt like maybe he was all set. He's just going to help out his guy, Jonathan.
What are the rules? Are you allowed to shoot from outside of the Continental to inside of the Continental?
No business. I don't think any business can be done on the grounds of the Continental.
Yeah, come on, Craig.
They get
Defoe is not in the Continental.
Doesn't matter.
True.
You're killing someone
still in the
Continental,
network,
though.
All right.
Hey, he's still in the network. So we all have the nightclub fight?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to make an argument for a different scene here. And I'm going to give you a
let's
reason
hear
why.
it.
I think the first time, the second time, the third time you watch this movie, it's absolutely the nightclub scene. Absolutely. It's unbelievable. But 4, 5, 6 times you've seen it and you watch it, I think it's not even the whole house fight. I think it's the last moments of the house fight when he kills the last guy and then there's a knock on the door. Knock, knock, knock. And you see the police lights through the frosted glass, and you're watching this. As you just mentioned, between the three of us, we've probably seen 65,000 action movies. We've all seen a version of this scene. Knock, knock, knock. The cops are there. The guy opens the door. Oh, is everything cool? Yeah, it's fine. And then the cop catches a glimpse of like a foot on the ground, pushes the door open, sees a dead body, and now
he's got to kill the cops.
Now he's got to kill the cop. And then now he's not only being chased by these killers, but also he's being chased by the cops. And like, we've seen this a ton of times. But when he opens the door and there's a dead guy there, and the cop is Jimmy is just like, "Oh, you working, John?" He's like, "Oh, no, just sorting some things out." He's like, "Well, I'll leave you be then," and just walks away. Like that's the moment when the world opens up and you realize this is something special I'm watching. This is a brand new thing I'm about to get into, because it should have gone left and it went right. I think it's the most important part of the movie because it sets the hook for everything that comes after. Just that one interaction. Oh shit. Okay. This is not going to go where I want it to go or where I think it's going to go. You have to give yourself up to the movie and watch it now.
That's a good case. I'm still going with him killing 130 people in the nightclub, but I thought you made a great case. Shea, we have a new category called "What's the most blank thing about this movie from whatever year it came out?"
Mm-hmm.
What's the most 2014 thing about this movie? So my initial answer was that we were all working together and Shea was teaching when this came out. That's a pretty good answer. But I think for me, it's Tyra's Miss Perkins.
That's exactly what I have on my list too. Adrian Palicki showing up.
I think you're right, man.
It feels so early 2010s of like, oh, I really like her. Oh, I hope. And it never really went the way I thought it was going to go with her. I thought she was going to be a bigger star, but she's
Lance
really
Reddick,
good in this
Ian
movie.
McShane, and Adrian Palicki being like the three below the line stars is like,
there's something
and Clark
about
Peters.
the cast of this movie feels perfectly 2014. So I think that's the answer. What's aged the best?
Oh, can I just throw another one out for that category, Bill? I think that the digital technology is exactly right for the era. Like, there's not a ton of security camera footage. There's not a ton of like dudes texting each other. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like, it's right around like got mobile phones. It's a little bit more elevated than like the Bourne movies where they're just using Nokias. But like, this isn't quite like everybody pulls out their camera phone when John Wick starts shooting up a dance floor.
The other most 2014 thing about this movie is the same week it came out, Timmy Duncan and the Spurs were raising their 2014 title banner.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. It was a good year in the Serrano house.
Now, 10 years later, you have the alien, Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah. We're back.
And dreams of more titles. You're back, baby. What's aged the best? The nickname Baba Yaga? Baba Yaga? I said that wrong. Baba Yaga as the Russian boogeyman name. It never really caught on. Felt like we could have had an NBA star where it's like John Moran is Baba Yaga. And
but do you think if we had an NBA star named Baba Yaga, would you nail the pronunciation of his name, or would you just kind of?
I'd probably say Yaga half the time and some Yaga,
and then Russillo would be like, "It's Yaga."
It's Yaga, Bill. Could we have, if there was a Russian star? I don't know. I'm just back pocketed if we ever get like the Russian version of Wembanyama. The Continental, we talked about how great that is from a What's Age the Best standpoint. I have some more, but Shea, do you have any What's Age the Best that jumped out to you?
I think this is an addition to the Palicki thing we were just talking about, seeing Tyra show up. The moment that she's such a snake in this movie. It's a great decision. Again, another great decision. They introduce this character and she's just the one person willing to break every rule, doesn't care what like you can't predict what she's going to do. When she goes into John Wick's room to kill him, she's face to face with him. She's a foot and a half away. She's got a grip on him, ready to kill him. And she tells him, "You were always a pussy." She says that to the most feared hitman in the history of the world. No fear in her at all. No trepidation, no hesitation. "You were always a pussy, and I'm going to kill you right now on this hallowed ground." I think watching this, she's like there's a spotlight on her. She's great.
You know, speaking of 2014, Miss Perkins really started the era of assassin empowerment. You know, it was really about betting on yourself. She was like, "Fuck these continental rules." Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think she's one of the great irrational confidence characters ever. It was almost like, you know, like when Jason Terry just knocked out the 2011 Heat. Just like, I'm just going to take this 30-footer to win Game 5. CR, what do you have for What's Age the Best? I have some more stuff.
I love that there's no cops in this movie except for Don from the newsroom. Like, if there had been a whole other plot line about like the detective who's trying to solve this case.
Yes.
It would have slowed the movie down. You would have gotten involved with John Wick trying to help the detective get the Russian mob or something like, no, I don't care. I don't care about this guy clearing his cases. I just want to see John Wick get his revenge. The reason this movie is perfect is it's so lean. That's what's aged the best, is it's like kind of stripped down nature. So I'm so glad they didn't also add like a law enforcement, like grizzled detective trying to figure this all out.
You know, as you were saying that, I was going to make believe there was 2 deleted scenes of Benjamin Bratt as the detective chasing them just to see what Shay's reaction was. Because Shay's like, I completely agree. And then I was like, yeah, but Benjamin Bratt was the detective. It's like, oh, motherfucker.
Hold on a second.
Some more what's aged the best. I like movies that show a much later scene first. And then we have to circle back with, so that scene's planted and now we're kind of going backwards, even though we're not saying we're going backwards. And then we end up where we kind of started. Hard thing to pull off. I also like getting punched in the stomach and immediately puking.
Yeah.
Which happened to Theon Lovejoy. Well, you know, that's a good body blow. You're just spitting up bile and mucus. Winston calling him Jonathan. Great play. I might start doing that with you, CR. Just start calling you Christopher every once in a while, just as like gives you a little weightiness, some history in our relationship.
For years, I have called Sean Fennessy Shawnathan. In the Ian McShane.
Is it because of Wick?
Because of this thing. Yes, I just say the Shawnathan every time.
That's good. I like that. The trope, which is just so funny when this happens, and it's in so many action movies, of the hot bartender with the history of the lead character. Jonathan, how long's it been? And just like with the fuck me eyes going, it's like, oh, we have that. Like, it's like the Top Gun Maverick. He just waltzes into that thing. It's like, oh, of course, Jennifer Connelly and him have a history. But that is a trope that is in a lot of these action movies.
That's such a good call. That scene kind of like sticks out like a sore thumb. Where she's just
there's
like,
no reason
hey,
for it.
John. And it's just,
everybody else was like, I'm sorry about your wife. And she's like, hey, your wife's dead, right?
Yeah, you're single now, right?
You had the memorial, right? How about Dean Winters from Oz?
Yeah.
As
perfect.
The eventually
lawyer.
banged up conciliary, but then now does all these, what is it, Geico? He does all the Geico commercials?
I think it's Allstate, yeah.
Allstate, where he's just getting the shit kicked out of him. And it's basically like he trained for that with this John Wick thing. So Wick has a lot of tricks in this. For what's aged the best, wanted to mention how he turns his watch.
Yeah.
When he has a fight, it's just subtle shit, but that's the one, I think my favorite one. It's like, I don't want to hurt the head of my watch, so I'm going to turn it inside of my wrist. So when I punch, nothing happens to the watch. Apparently soldiers do that to avoid reflections when they have a rifle.
I got
Theon
one.
Lovejoy as Vigo's loser son. What a run for him.
Yeah.
He's really good. He's so unlikable.
I don't even know what his name is in real life. I just say, he's
Alfie Allen.
It's almost, you can't, like, I wouldn't be able to see him in a rom-com or anything at this point, because you just can't unsee Theon Lovejoy in this character. Would you have, CR?
Theon Lovejoy played at NC State. Like,
Theon Lovejoy. Theon just signed with the Sacramento Kings.
What do I have for that? I love Vigo's speech to John. I just love that part where he's like, you know, this is why God took your wife and unleashed you upon me. And I just love the idea that John is like this infection and like they're never going to get out of this cycle.
Yeah.
I laughed so much on this last one when he gives that speech and he somehow turns John's wife dying into a thing about him. Like this is it was like in Breaking Bad when Walter White was talking with Jesse and he's like, it's all about me. This is all about, like, he was doing that, but like
What do we know about that Michael Nyqvist, CR, who plays Vigo?
I mean, like a lot of these
he's just one of those guys, right?
Yeah, and he's like a really good character actor. I mean, like he's like McShane and Reddick, and I think he's done a bunch of stuff in Europe. I can't remember seeing him in other action movies.
I feel like I've seen him, but I only really know him from this. All right. New category, the Fortune 3 Clap Award for most gifable moment. Would you go John Wick, that shot of him just holding the dead dog?
Oh,
What's
I think
the best
it's
gift from this movie?
I think it's I'm thinking I'm back. I see that one a lot. And then
that's good.
And then the other one is when he's getting his gun ready to go out to kill everybody. It's like another one you see a lot of. People make jokes about with
that or hammering the concrete.
Yeah, the jackhammer in the concrete's good too. Great shot Gordo Award, most cinematic shot. What'd you have, CR?
Love the red lights flashing when the cops pull up to his house and like the red is pulsing into the house after he's just killed everybody. It's just awesome. I mean, you could pick any frame from the Red Circle Club fight and especially on the dance floor, but I always like that.
I like the slow-mo of when he's about to kill Theon Lovejoy. When it's like a shot from the ground up and he's just slow-mo, like he's like an assassin, which he is. Would you have, Shay?
I'm so happy that we have just taken to calling him Lovejoy instead of Greyjoy. Greyjoy's in the Game of Thrones, but Lovejoy is just funnier.
I thought it was Lovejoy.
I tried to tell you it was Greyjoy.
Did you text him?
No,
Can we change it to Lovejoy?
No, we're keeping it. Yeah, we're keeping Lovejoy.
No, I want to keep Lovejoy.
My favorite shot in this is when they put the bag over John Wick's head. And then they do a wide shot from the back of whatever the empty facility is that they're in, the empty warehouse, and John Wick is an inch tall on the screen, and they're just around him, and it's all this empty space, and you're like, how is he ever going to get out of here?
Yeah.
It's such good filmmaking.
I also really like the cemetery.
Man, I might
Lovejoy's good. Why didn't you guys tell me? I should have done it the whole time.
Because now I just keep thinking it sounds like somebody who would be hanging out with Reggie Hammond. It's just so awesome.
I really like the cemetery shot of Wick and Defoe in the beginning, the black and white with the way they're clothes. It just looks cool. Okay. Den of Thieves, Benihana Award, scene stealing location's got to be the nightclub.
It's Continental. Isn't the Continental?
The nightclub's pretty amazing. I don't know. It's got like a Russian bathhouse in the back. It's got like cool balconies.
I think
you go Continental.
I think I would go Continental. Yeah, I mean the idea of that location spawned a whole show and everything, and it's like become like a major part of.
But that's most impactful location. I'm talking about scene stealing.
Oh, you've never made that distinction before. Okay,
good battle. Okay, all right, we can have both.
Yeah.
Big Kahuna Burger Award, best use of food and drink. The cereal for Wick and the dog.
Yeah.
A tough beat for people who love dogs. Like, oh my God, don't give a puppy cereal. That's going to be diarrhea central, but a key thing. The Vincent Chase Award for Are We Sure This Character Was Actually Good at His Job? Can we talk about Vigo's consigliere, Dean Winters?
Yeah.
Who doesn't speak
Vigo?
Russian? Yeah,
English Vigo.
First of all, English. Why isn't he Russian? Second, he's given 2 jobs. Can you send some guys to kill John Wick at his house? Failure. Hey, the nightclub. Can you protect my son? Yeah, I'll put my best guys in that. Bam, all of them die, and then eventually, just everybody dies. And I feel like in the press, he didn't get enough press about this.
At the end of the movie, he doesn't even have a gun. You're still being hunted by John Wick. You just killed his best friend. You don't have a gun? Where's your gun? Why do you?
Yeah, it's like he was coming back from a fantasy draft and didn't realize like that there was like violence and murder in the air.
I can't believe I took Marvin Harrison in the first round. Oh shit!
4
It's John
yards
Wick
on 1 catch. The Brandy Booth Award, best performance by a pet, the Beagle.
Yeah.
Do you like? Really had something special there.
It's a beagle in the first scene, and then what's he get? A pit bull at the end?
A pit bull
at the end. I like the Beagle a little more. Okay.
Daisy.
The Butch's Girlfriend Award for the weak link of the film. So they capture John Wick, and they just don't kill him immediately. This is Baba Yaga. Like, first of all, they have guns drawn on him after he's killed, I don't know, 50, 60 of their people. Just, they could take him down and then with a headshot. They don't. They decide to bring him to a remote location. It's literally like the Austin Powers sketch of, why didn't you just kill, Dr. Evil's son? Why didn't you just kill him? He's right there. Just kill him. Scott, shut up. I don't understand it. Every time I watch this movie, it's the flaw that jumps out at me. So that'd be my pick. What do you have, Shay?
Let me throw an idea out there.
Okay.
Do you think Vigo, in the back of his mind, maybe even towards the middle of his mind, was like, maybe I can get him back on my team? And if I can...
like a Pat Riley LeBron thing?
Yeah, wouldn't it be great to have a pissed off Baba Yaga working for me? You know, like if I could just like smooth this over with him and Yosef, Like we can
that's
really make some interesting
It
things.
never occurred to me. What do you think of that theory, Shay?
I do like that theory because he specifically says that impossible task that John Wick did built the foundation for what we are today. And John Wick just basically destroyed everything they were today. So we need him again.
He has to build it up
to
again.
build it back up. Let me try to, maybe it's that. I
that's
like
a
it.
good one.
I like it, Chris. I like it, Chris.
What's your weak link, Shay? Do you have
my
one?
week? No, because I was considering the same thing of Vigo just not killing him when you have the chance. Just kill him. Just kill him. He's knocked out. He's knocked unconscious twice in the movie. Neither time did they kill him, right? But then this goes back to him somehow making John Wick's wife's death about him. Like he needs to give that speech and he needs to turn his back on him and he needs to walk away. It's all ego for him. There's no way he wasn't going to do that. He couldn't just walk up and shoot him. He needed to say some stuff to John. And because as soon as John starts talking and explaining why he's doing everything he's doing, Vigo just fucking rolls his eyes. He's like, "Ugh, God.
Yeah, you're a dog. You're a dog. Yeah.
CR, what's John Wick's CTE situation at this point after the 4 movies? Not to mention whatever else happened to him.
I don't think he's going to be
two
playing.
knocked out concussions, like Antonio Brown versus the Raven style, knocked out twice just in this movie. And then I think we have another one in Wick 2. Probably like 1 per movie.
Also, a lot of car accidents, a lot of like head
like
drama.
7 cars. The falling down 45 flights of stairs in part 4. It's like, it's pretty bad.
He's going to have Will Smith being like, tell the truth.
Tell the truth. What's age the worst? Mention feeding cereal to the dog. So this is a tidbit that was in multiple things I read, so I feel like it's true. Bridget Moynihan, when they talked her into playing John Wick's wife, she only wanted to read her scenes in the script, so she didn't form any other opinions on John Wick's character. It's like, settle down, Meryl Streep. You're in this for 40 seconds. You don't read the script. I don't know if these flashbacks, I want to make sure I play them correctly. I just thought that was so weird. John Wick like never gets blood on him with all the murders he commits. You just feel like there's got to be blood splattering.
I don't know.
All
He's
over
got
the place.
blood all over his shirt. Like when he
I think
goes
he would
to
be covered in blood after the nightclub.
Yes,
like
but that's
covered.
why he's wearing a black suit, right? Like, I mean, I understand what you're saying. He would
So
definitely
you think
be
a black suit,
drenched in arterial spray, but yeah.
Wardrobe tip from CR: black suit covers up gallons of blood. Like he's stabbing people in the neck. Like you stab somebody in the neck, like they're gonna spout blood back at you. I feel like every part of his body would be covered in blood. I don't know. I had that one, and then I'm not positive I like the "We're Killing Strangers" song, just as a song.
So this is my what's aged the worst, Bill, is the multiple uses of Marilyn Manson throughout this movie, and I would like to propose a new rule. You know, we've talked about AI on this pod already. People go back with their 4K remasters, taking out grain and shadows from their movie. I'm looking at you, James Cameron. Why do we never talk about going back and redoing music in movies?
Yeah, because they do it when, like, sometimes streamers for TV shows, when they lose the
but like
licenses, they
John
have to
Wick
replace
is
the
now a
music.
$1 billion franchise. Can they not go back and put like a sick Chemical Brothers song or something over this? or like, what can't we could come up with something better than Killing Strangers, which is so on the nose, and they do twice with the lyrics.
Yeah, they run it back too, and I don't even
over the Willem Dafoe killing, and
time.
it's just like, dude, just have like, let's go get these guys like a little bit of a budget and have like Jeff Barrow or somebody go do cool music for this,
as opposed to the best movie of the 21st century, Miami Vice.
There's
all the
I
musical
have no
choices
notes.
in that movie I would not fucking touch.
Yeah,
and I literally would not touch. But yeah, I would have grabbed
Linkin
one of the ones. Oh my god, amazing
Hasn't
stuff.
aged a day.
Shay, any other what's aged the worst for you?
No, I don't know if this. Maybe I should have mentioned this at What Age is the Best, because as I was about to say it as What Age is the Worst, I realized I really love it when they do it in a movie. I love when a bad guy grabs a person to be their human shield when they're trying to get away. Theon Lovejoy does it when he's trying to get out of the pool. He just grabs this woman as John Wick is pointing his gun at him. I like when a bad guy grabs somebody for a human shield.
That's just such a classic Lovejoy move to do that.
Fucking Lovejoy. What's the best human shield moment of all time? Sizemore
Oh
and
my
Heat?
God. No.
It's got to be Sizemore, right?
Wesley Snipes picking up the little girl in New Jack City.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, that's pretty.
That's,
I was thinking
as gnarly
Sizemore
as
just because it
gets.
has the slow-mo of him turning around, thinking he got away, and Pacino just has him lined up.
I really love
And that was
when,
the day the action wasn't the juice anymore.
Yeah, I love when the hero nails the dude using the human shield at like an impossible, like that's like in the Untouchables with Andy Garcia, like
Yeah.
tosses him the gun and he's like lying on the ground.
RoboCop when
Yeah.
he shoots through the dress and hits the guy in the dick, like because he's holding the woman in front of him, and he's just crazy.
Well, 48 Hours has it too. That's the ending
Yeah,
with Jack Cates. You're done. History. They always use little kids for the shields because they're easier to pick up.
Yeah.
Oh, he does that in Lethal Weapon too. That's the reverse of it when Riggs is like, somebody shoot this asshole, somebody shoot this
right.
motherfucker who's got him, the guy who has him hostage.
Right. The Ruffalo Hannah Rubinek Partridge overacting award. You could put I'm thinking I'm back here and Keanu, but I really like him in that scene, and I don't want to put him in this category. So I'm going to go with
People misunderstand Rubinek. Just because you're the Rubinek doesn't mean you're also the action is the juice.
this isn't bad acting. It's about it's dialing it
He
up.
dials it up. So I think I'm thinking I'm back can both be the Rubinek, but it can also be what's aged the best. It could also be the best quote of the movie. It's sick.
I would rather go with Vigo going priceless. Like he just said, that's the one time he kind of loses it and starts yelling. Was there a better title for this movie? So interestingly enough, this movie was called Scorn for basically the entire run of the filming, and then they decided to audible and change. And
Thank God.
John Wick's better. Scorn's not a bad title for a movie, though. I just think Scorn 2, Scorn 3 would not have worked as well in the John Wick. Yeah.
That's where it falls apart.
Also, if your name's John Wick, that could probably be the title.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like your name is like Bob Johnson. Like John Wick, pretty cool name. The Can You Dig It award for most memorable quote. So you would do I'm thinking I'm back.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
You wouldn't go, there's no rhyme or reason to this life. It's days like today, scattered among the rest. John Wick gets
That's really
deep.
good. That's really good. That's really
John
good.
Wick fucking touches your soul. Shea, did you prepare a CR thinks Luke Wilson could have been Harrison Ford hottest take award, or do you want us to carry you?
I don't know that this is exactly that, but I do feel like I wish that John Leguizamo was in this movie for 90 minutes more, because he is so good. He's just perfect. He drops in, does his John Leguizamo thing. The part where the guy's telling him that he killed his dog, and John Leguizamo kind of laughs about it, just like, oh, you killed his dog, and then punches him. Brilliant acting by John Leguizamo. One of my favorite actors of all time. I think every movie he should be in there for at least 90 minutes. Every movie you can think of, put him in it. It's better.
He does an awesome job.
I don't want to go on too big of a tangent, but he's one of those guys, like we think about this, some athletes too, where you're just like, was that guy used correctly? Was that guy on the right team? Did that guy's career play out the way it should have played out? I feel like with him, I don't know why he wasn't used like he was in this movie in more impactful ways.
You think about the times he was used correctly, like in Baz Luhrmann, Romeo and Juliet, and you're like, holy
he's
shit,
good in
like,
that
that's
movie.
Magic. He pops up again in the rest of the movies, or John Wick 2. He has like one little part where he shows up to pick up John Wick's car to fix it. Totally destroyed car. And he's like, oh, you got a crack on your windshield. Just a little joke. And you're like, God, I love this guy so much.
It would have been cool if he had a little bit more of a like Al from Die Hard role, where like they could talk on the phone a couple of times throughout the movie. You know?
Yeah, I like that.
A good role for you too, CR.
Thanks.
The Al from Die Hard role. People just call CR. My hottest take is Vigo says, a lot of us are rewarded for our misdeeds, which is why God took your wife and unleashed you on me. This life follows you. We are cursed, you and I. It sounds like bullshit, but if you actually think about it, like Vigo, he's 100% right.
He's dialed in.
Like, hey, John Wick, maybe don't kill 1,500 people, and maybe your wife would. Maybe the karma of that wouldn't have ended up with your wife, dying. I don't know. Vigo brought me to some places as I was thinking about it. I was like, you know what, Vigo, I know he's full of shit, but it's a pretty solid point, man. God's always watching, and karma exists.
So,
maybe that's what happened to your wife and puppy, John Wick.
My hottest take is similar to yours. It's about John Wick's massive overreaction to a dog dying, frankly, considering the amount of blood
for
he
2 days.
And I would also go as far to say is that I think it's a massive deflection from his own boredom at his suburban life. And I think that when we see him and he's doing donuts on a private runway somewhere, and it's like, yeah, you know what, man, you didn't really have a lot going on.
Yeah, maybe coach a fourth grade basketball team.
I'm just saying, his wife died.
Well, I mean, like, what's going on? What was John Wick doing with Helen? What is he doing? Is he hanging out what does she do? I don't even know what she does. Is she a doctor or something?
I have a lot of questions about this later.
Okay, I'm just saying, like, John Wick may have had a big void in his soul that I think he was trying to fill, and it just conveniently came along with a massive overreaction to a pet dying.
Wonderful take. Great take.
That was a long way of CR saying, I'm not a dog guy.
Yeah, for real.
Casting what ifs.
You wouldn't have seen him do it if he had a cat. That's all I'm saying.
Ian McShane replaced Jason Isaacs as Winston. That's the only casting what if I could find. Best that guy award. We have a lot of people who are kind of became like Lance Reddick became Lance Reddick. He used to be that guy, but then Clark Peters, same thing. Tyra from Friday Night Lights. I know her name's Adrian Palicki. Dean Winters. I know his name's Dean Winters. It really comes down to Theon Lovejoy against Luther from 48 Hours.
That's David Patrick Kelly, man.
Who's also the bad
Patrick
guy
Kelly.
in Warriors. Is he David Patrick Kelly or is he Luther from 48 Hours?
No, I think he's that guy. The
He's
cleaner
that
is
guy.
that guy.
I was so happy to see him.
I think that's the winner.
The only other thing I was going to say is that the actor who plays Victor, who's Yosef's boy, is also...
He's one of those guys.
Is he from Billions? Yeah, he's one of the DAs in Billions.
He's Connerty.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's a good one.
Toby Leonard
he might be
Moore.
the winner, actually.
If you want to go with something a little bit more recent.
Dion Waiters. I don't think Tyra from Friday Night Lights is eligible for this. I think she's in the movie just a whiff too much.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's Leguizamo. You could talk me into Jimmy the Cop, but Leguizamo just coming in hot, filming all the scenes in one day. Leaving us wanting more. I don't know how he's not the winner.
Close the polls. This is
Can I tell you a very quick little story? John Leguizamo came to San Antonio as part of like his whatever his most recent comedy tour was, Latin History for Morons. And I'd never seen him in person. I told Laramie that's what I want for like my birthday / Christmas present. So we got front row seats to see John Leguizamo in person. And we're sitting there and he's up there performing and he does a thing where he like, you know, a comedian will pick somebody in a crowd and then like start making jokes or whatever. And he picked me, like out of, there's 800 people in there or whatever. And he just so happened to zero in on me. And like 3 different times he made a joke about, he like asked me to solve some math question really quick. And I was so flustered. I was like, I have no idea. I'm sorry. I can't even speak English right now. And he just kept making jokes about it. And I don't know. I just want to mention that. I don't think I've
that
ever
was
told
your
anybody.
brush with John Leguizamo.
That was my brush. Yeah,
that's unbelievable.
And I was so happy. I was so happy that it happened.
Oh, that's awesome. Recasting couch, director, or city. I wouldn't touch anything in this movie.
No.
Nope. Mm-mm.
Who do you want for the director's commentary? Would it be Tony Romo, Chris Collinsworth, or another sports announcer? What do you have, CR?
Oh, Mike, he's got something buried down there, but he's going to take a sledgehammer and get it out because the past isn't just the past.
I have
we should introduce Belichick on Manning Cast to this category.
I have that right now. I have Belichick doing the nightclub scene on the Manning Cast. John's, he's just killing a lot of people right now.
It's just like it's good technique.
This is You know, I think people know John Wick's really good at this.
I mean,
And,
it's just why it's not a surprise. It's really good what he's doing.
He's just doing headshots, and the headshots are just so important.
Headshots, generally speaking, lethal. Those are lethal.
A lot of people don't realize headshots. The guy dies right away.
Oh, that's great. Let's give you 8 pods.
Dude, the headshot's so important. Half-assed internet research. Keanu, 4 months of training, several hours per day in a gym, strict diet, stretches, choreography, trained in judo, Japanese jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and arnis. I don't even know what that is. Tactical gun training with the LA SWAT and Navy SEALs. Learned stunt driving skills, learned how to drift a car while aiming a gun.
That's sick. That last one is awesome.
Adrian Palicki trained in judo and jiu-jitsu for a few months, spent 2 weeks learning her fight scene. So there you go.
I had a couple of pieces of research for you, Bill.
What do you got?
One is Alfie Allen went to Russian bathhouses to research Yosef, and I really would love to have seen that conversation between Alfie and the director and the producer as they're like, God, we're trying to organize the shoot for this like nightclub scene, and he's like, guys, just wanted to run this by you. I think I'm going to spend a lot of time in some bathhouses to kind of get in characters.
Jesus.
Like whatever you need, Lovejoy.
Lovejoy's really go for it.
Also, the Red Circle, the nightclub, is named after one of my favorite movies, which is Le Cercle Rouge, which is this Jean-Pierre Melville crime film from France.
No, I love when you get artsy, CR. John's car was a 1969 Boss 429 Mustang, only 1,359 made, and they didn't have enough money to buy 5 of the cars and destroy them. So they had little fake substitute cars, which is a recurring theme of things that are on their way up when you're cutting corners. And then they make the sequel and they're like, we're getting 5 of those fucking cars and we're destroying all of them. They filmed the fight scene with John and Vigo over 5 nights at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. And it was so cold that at one time they had to stop using artificial rain because they didn't want somebody to get hypothermia because fucking Keanu wouldn't wear a wetsuit. And they're like, just wear a wetsuit, Keanu. It's like, I can't wear the wetsuit. And they were worried he was going to like catch mononucleosis or something. Stahelski and Leach, the Matrix stunt coordinators, they directed this together and the DGA wouldn't co-credit them. So one became the director, the other became the producer. Apparently Michael Nyqvist,
yeah.
Is it Nyqvist?
Yeah.
He cut his head so badly that he needed 80 stitches in one of the fight scenes and almost lost an ear. That sounded exciting. And then what do you think total number of John Wick kills is, Shea?
67.
I'm going to go 112.
Shea wins. 84.
Boom.
Shea's closer to the pin. Apex Mountain. What's Keanu? Matrix?
Yes.
Yeah, it's got to be Matrix.
Has to be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about how many things have come out of the Matrix.
Imagine doing John Wick and having that not be your Apex Mountain, but apparently we're here. Revenge movies?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Fake Hotel Universe is 100% yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
What do you think the awards point system is for the Continental?
You think they have an app?
Do you think you can get like Sapphire tier there and just be like, oh, wow, well, you've crossed 10,000 coins, Mr.
I got
Wick.
a 4th night for free.
Here's a warm cookie. Yeah.
I didn't kill anyone in my last 50 stays. They gave me a 4th night. Adrian Palicki.
I think Tyra.
I feel like season 1, season 2, Friday Night Lights has to be.
Yeah.
Even being in the crazy Landry murder plot probably was more apexy.
She caught a body.
The one extra headshot shot. This is Apex Mountain for me. I really feel like Wick it's been in pieces of different movies, and Wick's like, we're taking this and making this our thing. Russian boogeymen, 100%. Russian bad guy mafia characters.
So this is tough because Eastern Promises is getting in the way here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go
Shit.
Eastern Promises. I like
Okay.
Viggo Mortensen getting a little loose.
How about Criminal Nepo Babies? Lovejoy.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Defoe, no. Robbery Fires, where you rob something and then just set it on fire, overtaking it. I feel like I've seen that in movies before, but
yeah,
maybe
Joker
not
did
as
that, right? In Dark
well.
Knight.
Few people have done that one. How about Vigo? Just the name Vigo was this
I
Apex
think Viggo
Mountain.
Mortensen gets that. Yeah.
Just fun, talk it out.
How about burying and then digging up your former career underneath concrete?
No question, yes. Has to be. John Wick movies.
Yes. I'm gonna
Depends on
say
your favorite John Wick movie. I still
I'm
think
going. I
one's
like
the best.
3.
Yeah.
I like 3.
21st century action movies.
I'm gonna say
Yes.
I feel like it revitalized the genre in some ways in America. I don't know if I'm accurate on that.
I'm gonna say no only because it didn't do well in the movies.
But it was actually one of those not last movies, but it was one of those movies that you knew they were going to make a sequel because like everybody was still talking about it. Like it felt like they were
Yeah.
just scratching the surface of the world rather than like, oh, you can't top that, right?
I'm not saying this just because Shay's here, but I think if you're comparing Fast 4 to Wick 1, Fast 4 I left the theater and I'm like, there's gonna be 6 more of those.
Yeah.
It was just so clear they had stumbled on the right recipe and it was still going. Wick, whether they knew they were going to make a sequel or not, who knows? It seems like they were barely trying to get the movie done. But Fast 4, I was like, we're off now. The family is together. What's next? When's the next one coming out? We now understand the motivations. New category for you, Shay, since the last time you were here. Cruise or Hanks?
I like
You
it.
had to cast John Wick.
It's got to be Cruise. We saw it in Collateral. He did it already.
It's 100% Cruise.
I wish we
Easy
could get
Cruise win.
Wick and Vincent together fighting in LA. Awesome.
Yeah.
I wish we could have done that.
You know, John Wick's like a whiff on Vincent's corner.
I think
did notice
they
this
borrowed
the
from a lot of
last
stuff.
watch.
Yeah,
Yeah. This would have been a great Cruise part. I don't know if he ever would have done it. Racehorse, rock band, wrestler, or fantasy team name. Something with the Continental, right?
No, dude.
Yeah.
Baba Yaga?
Oh, shit.
Down the stretch comes Baba Yaga. It's the horse you send to kill the boogeyman.
Yeah, that's a good call. All right, pick a nits. I have a bunch. Shay, you could start.
All right. Can we point out the lore of John Wick killing a guy with 3 guys with a pencil? A pencil it's pretty much a knife.
Yeah.
You're like jamming it. You know what I mean? It's like you can kill him with a pillow. You kill him with a pencil. We see him do it in 2. He just jams it into their heads. All right. I get it. That one sticks out to me. I think the main one though, is it costs the same amount of hitman money to get a body cleaned up as it does to enter the Hitman nightclub. It's 1 coin. Everything's 1 coin. Stay at the hotel, 1 coin. Clean up a body, 1 coin. I know they do it for simplicity, but I'm not going to pay the same price to get a body cleaned out of my house as I am to come into the club.
I think, Shay, he even pays the valet at the end of the movie a gold
With a
coin.
coin. But maybe
Right?
it's different denominations, same size. Like
Yeah.
maybe it's like
Maybe.
British money, like.
So you would have gone smaller, bigger. I've always made this case for Olympic gold medals that I think like the basketball team should have like a bigger one, or like you win the 100-yard dash versus
Well, we
like
know
you're in
they-
like the fucking swimming relay and the backstroke. Should be like
we
a
know
smaller
they have
medal.
different coins
What's
because
wrong
they
with the
introduced them.
backstroke?
They-
Why
they
should
introduced
Tyrese
bigger coins
Halliburton
later
get a
on.
bigger medal than the guy who does backstroke?
Listen, he had to win 6 games. You know, it's an important sport. I don't know. So like the valet would get a smaller gold coin.
Well,
Shay?
here's what I'm saying. They introduce bigger coins later on in the movie. The adjudicator has a totally different coin, much bigger. It's black when she slides it across the table, or when they slide it across the table. Excuse me. I think it's the same denomination for each one, is what it looks like.
You know, we've done a lot of these movies, and my guess is they were like, hey, we should have them give gold coins to each other. And somebody was like, cool. And that was like all the thought they put into it,
Yeah.
not knowing that we'd be analyzing this movie for the next 10 years. Like, the fuck's up with these gold coins? CR, what do you have?
I as a nitpick, I find that the Vigo fight at the end of the movie does not reach the heights of the church escape or the nightclub. So it's just like
This
a
is
little
a
bit
common
of
problem with
and it's
action
also
movies
like
where the
John
villain's
Wick
older.
kind of like throws that fight. I'm like, you're telling me John Wick couldn't fuck Vigo up like instantaneously? Or I guess
that was
maybe
my
you could
number
make
one nitpick.
you can
That
make
fight
it's
should
the
be over in 5
accumulation.
seconds.
It's the accumulation of his injuries, maybe over the course of the movie. But I just feel like there's no way Vigo's like putting him down once.
Yeah, it's a little like the end of Gladiator where that fight's closer because he's been stabbed in the chest and drugged.
Yeah.
In this case, maybe you have to think of it that way with John Wick. He's been knocked out twice. He fell 20 feet. He's been
Bleeding.
stabbed and shot and punched. So maybe his body is just
4
a
car
physical record of his
crashes.
fight.
Yeah.
I thought on that note, I thought Wick would be way more banged up after the Theon Lovejoy home invasion. When they knock him out, he gets punched in the
no
face like
black eyes
5
or
times. He's got, it's just no swelling at all. And he's just fine.
Along those same lines, I always get annoyed when in the first time he has a shot at Theon, he's in the bath and he's got like a clear shot and he doesn't take it. And you're like, oh, well, that's because he's saving a special death for this guy. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the movie, he just like ices him. And I'm like, aren't you going to crucify this guy? Like, aren't you going to like skin him alive? Like, what are we doing here, man?
It's the only time he doesn't take the shot right when he has it. It's weird. Yeah, I agree with you, though. It feels like he's like, no, I got to save a better death for this guy.
This could go back to your theory, Chris, of he was just bored at home.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want to do this yet. I'm going to wait.
John Creasy would have put an explosive up his rectum. You know what I mean? Like, we need somebody who's an artist.
Yeah, fair point. I feel like during the nightclub, after maybe somewhere between the 8th and 25th John Wick murder, maybe more people leaving the nightclub running as fast as they can. I don't know. I don't know how loud it is, but maybe after the 12th person falls over the balcony, they'll be like, you know what? Let's, I think there's another club down the street.
Hey, have you noticed the guy next to me is bleeding out? This is a great song.
Look, we mentioned this earlier, but Lovejoy not knowing who Wick is when Wick isn't that old is
I hate it.
just a flaw. Like nobody is that stupid.
And it seemed like Victor does kind of know and knows he shouldn't be fucking with him at the gas station. But then when Wick confronts Victor at the sink in the bathhouse, Victor's like, fuck you, motherfucker. It's like, why don't you beg for your life? You're going to give up your boy anyway. Like,
right. So in real life, Baba Yaga is an old witch that lives in a hut on chicken feet and flies around in mortar with a giant pestle, apparently, according to Russian lore.
In real life? Yeah.
Or in the real life myth of that is that. It's just an old Russian witch, female witch. So kind of a strange nickname.
Do you think that's the witch that's been haunting the top floor of your house for a while?
It's a good question.
I
gotta figure that out. Yeah. Now you're in my head, CR.
Could I add a picking net?
Yeah.
I thought you guys were going to mention this. John Wick's house. A lot of windows in the house of an assassin. It's a damn greenhouse. You'd think maybe a guy who kills people all the time would have maybe not windows surrounding his entire place.
Well, furthermore, like to what extent is he out? Like how long has he been out for? Right?
I assume they were bulletproof windows. When I watch John Wick, I'm really trying to figure out where he lives because at one point when he has no car, he takes the bus to go see Leguizamo.
His bedroom, every morning when he wakes up, there's just like floor to ceiling windows staring at his bed. And he's an assassin who's retired. I don't know. Maybe I would sleep in a room with a few less windows.
Yeah, you don't think it was just bulletproof glass though?
I don't know.
I guess not if everybody just
throwing
broke in.
people through glass in his house.
Also, wouldn't he have better security? Like 2 guys just waltz in, they get in there. My last one is just he never gets his car back. It always bothered me. Mm-hmm. I felt like that would have been a better ending. He goes to the Leguizamo chop shop.
Doesn't that happen in the second movie though?
Yeah, but in the first movie.
But he that's like the first scene of the second movie, right? He goes to get his car back from.
Yeah.
Right.
But I didn't know there was going to be a second movie when I saw John Wick 1.
Oh, so you're method potting, like as if you don't.
Potting.
Yeah.
Sequel, prequel, Prestige TV, all black cast, or untouchable. Can I talk you guys into a Miss Perkins prequel?
Sure. I mean, that's essentially what the ballerina is going to be. The new one. It's like an extension of it.
I'm saying in 2015, I think we could have gotten that one going concurrently with, as we're making John Wick 2, we're also doing that on HBO or something. But
I also would have really enjoyed
more backstory on Miss Perkins.
A Noah Baumbach directed prequel of Helen and John's married life, of just like, so, like, what were you doing in the late 90s? It's just like, well, not much.
Let's not talk about it. How come you could talk so many languages?
Yeah,
big student in college.
You really like Tchaikovsky.
Is this movie better with Wayne Jenkins, Danny Trejo, Sam Jackson, JT Walsh, Byron Mayo, Harling Mays, evil laughing Ramon Raymond, or Philip Baker Hall, CR?
God damn, John! I didn't know I was dealing with Super Baba Yaga. You got me crying over a dog like that Sarah McLachlan song in the PETA ad. You better avenge that little guy before you die, because you're going to hell a long fucking time, big boy.
Thank you. I was hoping it was going to be that one.
I had to do it for Shay.
Wayne's back. We haven't had Shay on since we added evil laughing Ramon Raymond to the pod for Andy Garcia's character.
No one selected Ramon Raymond ever.
What do you think, John Wick? We're gonna kill some people. Just one Oscar. Who gets it? It's got to be the stunts, right?
The stunts for sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Probably unanswerable questions. Why is John Wick a 6 a.m. guy? You're a retired hitman. What are you waking up at 6 a.m. and making coffee for?
He's probably got to get up to pee anyway.
He's like, right? I got to watch Get Up with Greenie. I think Marcus Spears is going to be on.
My dad has been retired for 3 years now, and he gets up at fucking 4:30 in the morning still, like he's driving the bus. He just gets up. He's like,
I guess my dad does. My dad gets up early.
Wick being like, I think Orlovsky's breaking down Anthony Richardson today.
Heard Mina Kimes is coming on later. Could a boogeyman hitman really find true love? Because that's probably the biggest leap of faith of this movie, right? This guy is the boogeyman sent to kill the other boogeyman. He's the most feared person in the Russian mafia. And he's just like, hey, you want to pick apples this weekend?
I do want to know.
Want to go see my aunt in upstate New York?
Yeah.
Like what kind of domesticated John Wick life was happening here?
Yeah.
All right, Shay, this is for you.
Mm-hmm.
Evil foreign mobster rankings. And I'll give you Chechenian, Bulgarian, Russian, Italian, or other. Who's number one?
Oh, geez. It feels like Italian is the one we've seen the most. But I think I'm going to introduce one. The one I was always the most afraid of. We talked about it earlier. The Albanians in Taken.
Albanians, another one.
Like, I don't want to mess with the Albanians. I'm out on the Albanians.
Who's in the Equalizer? Which country's in that one? Is that Bulgarian or Russian?
I think it's Russian in the first one.
I think Albanian. So I thought Bulgarians was Taken, but Shay's right. It's Albanians. I think Albanians number one. For some reason, I know the least about that country.
Mm-hmm. It's Russian in the Equalizer, by the way.
Yeah, Russians.
Albanian's scary.
The Equalizer does such a good job spreading the wealth, man. Because it's like the Russians, then it's the ex-CIA guys, and then it's the Italian mafia.
If Jokic's brothers were in one of these movies, like Wick 5, I still feel like we need those guys somewhere in there. I'm the most afraid of the Chechenians because in UFC, those guys, anytime they're in a fight, you're like, oh, this guy's going to be a fucking badass. Chechen.
This is an unanswerable question, a little bit of a nitpick, but you mentioned Jokic's brothers, so it came to mind. If we were doing a Ringer top 100 of all of Vigo's henchmen, would you be a little disappointed by the lack of separation between it's basically Kirill and then it's everybody else. And it would be really hard to be like
the one guy that puts up the big fight with Wick.
Yeah. So I think in the future movies, they do a much better job distinguishing his who he's fighting against, his combatants.
Yeah.
Well, we went over it earlier. They had 10 stunt people that they had to just keep reusing over and over again. Best double feature choice, John Wick 2.
I have a better tomorrow.
Andy and Red Zawatney award for what happened next day. It was John Wick 2. What piece of memorabilia would you want from this movie, Shea?
I want a gold coin. I want to hold one in my hand.
I'm sure they put those in movie action houses.
I'm sure they're out. I'm sure like you could buy that.
I want a real one. I don't want a prop. I want a real one.
I want the sledgehammer.
Ooh.
I would
It's like, what's that in your office? That's the fucking sledgehammer John Wick used to reclaim his Baba Yaga life.
I would like to have the video he keeps watching of Helen. And then I would like to watch it. I would like to just like randomly watch it at like work meetings. Have it start playing during the watch. Oh, sorry. I was just watching a very meaningful video.
Well, now when you watch it, you could think about how Bridget Moynihan, she's so good in that because she didn't know what was going to happen in the rest of the movie.
Yeah, she had no idea.
It's incredible method acting from her. The Coach Finstock Award, Best Life Lesson. Don't fuck with another man's dog, car, or both.
That's come up before. I would say if you're a Russian mob boss, just let your kids know about the Baba Yaga. Just be like, you might run into a guy one day, and you know, just make sure it's not this dude.
Yeah, at dinner one night, maybe second course, that story
just
comes up.
Send it on the group chat. Just be like, here's John Wick. Just make sure you never fuck with this guy.
And who won the movie was obviously Keanu Reeves. All right, producer Craig is here. He's been a little bit of a rough stretch with the movies lately for producer Craig, but let's see what he thought of John Wick.
Come on, Craig. Come on, Craig.
I liked Night Shift.
The Purple Rain was not kind.
That was the only miss for me.
That was tough. We've recovered. What'd you think of John Wick?
Don't worry, John Wick. I think it's my favorite action movie franchise of all time.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, Craig.
Because I don't know. For me, it's the only action franchise that came out during my formative movie years. I was in college when the first one came out, and it's so original. And 10 years later, it's so rare that we get the originality. I'm still shocked this movie isn't based on like some comic. I can't believe this is original, and you can just feel it. It's so earnest. It's trying very hard. It's small. It doesn't know it's a hit yet, and you can feel that. It doesn't feel like Fast and Furious, the Fast and Furious stuff, which also was going on as I was growing up. I don't know. That feels like it comes from that old True Lies model.
Craig, careful, Craig.
I like it. It just feels different. This is art house action.
You know what I mean? Want to trigger Baba Shea up there.
Baba Shea.
Baba Shega.
But yeah, I don't know. I think this is like the most efficient world building in 100 minutes I've ever seen for an action movie. Like the writing, you actually have emotional buy-in. Half the time with these action movies, it's like, oh, this is just like, oh, it's Stallone, it's Schwarzenegger. Like these are just like cool, badass guys. With Wick, the first 15 minutes of this movie are like as sad as Up to me. I'm like, this is fucking devastating. This man's wife dies, they kill his dog, he gets the shit kicked out of him. Like, this is the lowest of the low, and you just feel the stakes, which is something you don't usually feel that emotional weight for action movies.
You know, it does give me faith that somebody's going to be able to pull this off again. Right? Yeah, Fast and Furious, that universe gets created in 2000. This is 2014. Matrix starts 1999. It's doable. I'm just wondering who the next one is. We've seen some people take runs at it, and it just some of them didn't take.
Also, like, there's the visual style of this movie is so like the way they just inject, like they're just doing like neon lights, house music, rave vibe. I think that's the most 2014 part of it is the music.
Is the music?
It's like the rave nightclub stuff, and they basically just run it back every movie. I think 2 and 4 also have just like super sick neon nightclub shootouts. And it's the coolest action scenes ever, in my opinion. They're amazing.
Shea, maybe this could be the next thing you write, where somebody kidnaps Victor Wembanyama, and you as yourself have to get him back. And you go into the basement, you just start hitting the sledgehammer to get your stuff.
I got some bad news for Coach Pop. We're not going to get Wemby back. If I'm in charge of getting him back, I'm not going to make it.
He's gone.
When they send those 12 guys to my house in the beginning, I'm immediately dead. Like immediately.
That John Wick is like 7 minutes long.
Also, wait, one more thing. My dad loves these movies as well. And my dad was a cop and it was on the SWAT team. And he says that this is the most accurate gun handling he's seen in an action movie.
Jesus.
I love it.
Like the way Wick operates his handgun, he's like, it's the most authentic I've seen.
The Mr.
We should have mentioned that earlier.
approval.
Yeah, because it does jump out. He's especially how he reloads.
His reloads, yeah. He's like, the way he handles it, he says it's perfect.
The one in the nightclub where he has to reload, he reloads and then hits the guy and it taps the guy is like, whoa.
Well, that's it for John Wick. And by the way, we already did John Wick 2. I don't know why we did John Wick 2 before John Wick 1, but it was a thing that happened. I think we just got John Wick 2 had come out, and I just think we had all been watching it for, 18 months, and we just said, fuck it, and just did John Wick 2. So now, if you want to hear John Wick 2, that is in the Rewatchables archives as well. Shea Serrano, a true pleasure to do a podcast with you again.
So happy to see you, buddy.
I had a great time. CR, thanks as always. Produced by Craig Horlbeck. Thank you as well. And you can watch us on the Ringer Movies YouTube channel as well. See you next week on the Rewatchables.